Good evening and welcome to tonight's Hearthstone Half Hour. I'm Hammy, this is Felcroft Casts. Thank you very much for tuning in this evening, and tonight, because it is Tuesday, it's Arena Tuesday, and we're going to be jumping back after a little bit of time out into some Arena. Good to have a few runs, and Arena, as we jump into the game, if you haven't tuned into one of these episodes before, we try and go through our arena draft and then just jump in a couple of episodes. These generally haven't been full arena runs, but it is good to get a few games in and just evolve our drafting technique as we go. So if you're relatively new to the game, Arena of course its own specialist mode, get given one of three heroes that you can choose, and then you've got to pick the best deck you can with some random selections and then charge straight on through to try and get a big win streak if at all possible. So we'll jump into the game. Today we're actually going to be going for Paladin. I have not played Paladin in a little while, and Paladin actually pretty strong when it comes to Arena. At the moment, obviously, it goes back and forth depending on various sort of card buffs and nerfs, but there are a few classes that just have sort of a shining away kind of advantage in Arena at this point in time. Paladin, Priest and Mage are also pretty strong. You'll often see people trying to grab Paladins and Priests, and of course because in the Arena mode you effectively get served cards and you have to pick one of three. So there is a heavy luck element to, of course, what cards you get given. The core mechanics of the deck in particular, what cards they have, can really have a bearing. So Paladin is just really solid. It can, of course, swarm with minions, the 2-mana hero ability, summoning the Silverhand Recruit, the 1/1 minion, so you can drop a lot of, in card games it's known as tokens on the board, which you can then buff and do similar with. A lot of strong buffs in the Paladin set, with cards like Consecration. You've got good AoE damage as well, and then of course the whole Paladin Divine Shield mechanic as well. Some of the Paladin specific minions, but also some of the neutral minions give you that whole effectively 2-for-1 mechanic. If you have a minion with Divine Shield and you use it once, you lose the Divine Shield, take no damage, use it again, and then you actually get that almost 2-for-1 advantage, which is really good to see. So let's jump straight on into this Paladin draft. And something has gone a little bit quiet. I'm just going to check if it's my headset. Okie dokie. So first up in terms of this draft, what goes well? Spell damage, not hugely well with Paladins. The Twilight Drake, you draw a lot of cards when you're drafting and playing this kind of mode, or you will stack up cards in your hand. So I'm going to go for the Twilight Drake. It's just a really solid core card with the ability to gain that 1 health for each additional card in my hand. I've just been talking about Divine Shield, so jumping in there, Hand of Protection could be a solid option. An Eye for an Eye is sort of a bit of protection. The Reckless Rocketeer will give me a bit of a late game charge and smashing ability. For this moment in time, I'm going to go with Divine Shield. Next up, Tauren Warrior, a really solid core minion, the Taunt and Rage and 3 attack. If that just takes 1 damage in the early game, you're going to suddenly have a 5/2 tanking minion, very solid. The Booty Bay Bodyguard as well, a particularly solid card too, just in terms of that mid-game taunt. For the early pressure, I'm going to go with that Tauren Warrior. Next up, a very straightforward choice here. Noble Sacrifice will protect me. The Blessing of Might is just an easy 3 attack, which could really benefit me in a lot of situations. And that Ancient Brewmaster there, returning a friendly minion, will effectively let me play a minion twice. It will let me effectively heal a minion as well. So that's a pretty nice choice. In terms of stuff I'm going to go for, I feel like buffing small minions. I'm going to go with that Blessing of Might. Next up, Strengthful Tiger, just a charging in stealth, big mid-game hitting minion, heal with the Voodoo Witch Doctor, and a all-over-board heal with the Dark Scale Healer. I'm going to go with the Strangleform Tiger just because it will let me drop some late-game damage. And now we have our epic Lay on Hands. Is probably going to get the pick here, although there is an interesting case to be picking off Blood Knight here, because if I'm trying to pick minions with Divine Shield, if I can drop something that gains 3/3 for each shield lost, and I can get a lot of minions with Divine Shield, that could be very interesting. I'm going to take a gamble and go with the Blood Knight for that very reason. True Silver Champion is an easy pick here, a great weapon, and it does the heal as well, so a real solid pick. Next up, the Bloodfin Raptor, a nice early game intro minion. The Silverhand Knight will help me swarm later in the game, but a lot of stuff in the arena you want to try and get some presence out early, so I'm going to go with the Raptor. Blessing of Wisdom will give me more card draw. Card draw is great, but I want more Divine Shields, so I'm going to go with the Scarlet Crusader to see if I can get that Blood Knight away. Other useful early picks, Knife Juggler, a real solid spine card too, just for that 1 chip sniping damage every single time that you summon a minion. So strong and constructed, comes really strong as well in terms of the arena mode. So a nice solid pick there. The Young Priestess also very good, just for the fact that it will give minions 1 health a turn. I'm going to take a roll and go with Young Priestess. I don't have any 1 mana minions that I can drop, and also looking at the other cards I'm trying to play, if I'm trying to get out in this deck at the moment a lot of sort of 2-3 cheap mana minions and buff them up, then the Young Priestess just gives a nice solid passive buff. People will probably try and target that Young Priestess and remove it, but it's good to have there for the time being. This is a tough decision. The Acolyte of Pain will give me more card draw. I'm sort of lacking card draw in this deck at the moment, and the Blessing of Kings gives me that very scary buff to my minion. I'm going to go with the Blessing of Kings and pray against prey that I get some more draw power. 3 equally nice options. The Raid Leader buffs all of my minions. The Yeti is a real solid 4 card, but I've got a few good options in the 4 range. I could do with some tanks. This is very aggressive at the moment. So one thing that I need to keep an eye out for is maybe some early game tanks. We've got that Booty Bay Bodyguard again coming in as a mid game tank, which could be useful. The Boulder Fist Ogre could be a finisher, and Light's Justice for that 1 damage would actually let me pick off any swarms and things in the early game. You will see some, you know, Murloc swarms and similar, so there's a reasonable case to take a weapon. For a bit of chip, I'm going to go with that weapon. We've got a few nice options here. The Loot Hoarder will give me draw, the Murloc will give me early game board control, and the Holy Light gives me a heal. I'm going to go with the Loot Hoarder because I'm lacking some draw power at this point in time. And some other nice options as well. More Divine Shields goes so well with that Blood Knight if I actually get him out. The Novice Engineer gives me the more reliable card draw to be getting through my deck. I'm going to go for the Novice Engineer for the time being. 15 out of 30, we're halfway through our draft, and let's just take a quick review. And remember that you don't have to turbo all of the way through your arena draft, there's no rush. If you even want to, you can hit back, you can go out, you can go and look at my collection at various cards, start having to think about your strategy, remind myself if I want to what's in my Paladin deck, and then I can go back into arena and it will just continue from where I've left off, halfway through with the same set of cards. So when you're drafting your first arenas, or if you've forgotten something, don't be afraid to back out of the arena screen. Just a little tip if you're slightly newer to arena there. So for our 15th card through, we're just going to review what we've got. We've got a weapon for a bit of chip damage and removing of some minions. We've got Blessing of Might. We would probably like some more buffs to take those small minions that we have and make them more powerful. We're going for cheaper mana minions in this deck and then giving them lots of nice buffs. Divine Shield works well in 2 ways. It lets us swing twice and a 2-for-1, and also will feed our Blood Knight. Priestess buffs our minions, which is great. Blood Fen Raptor is just a solid damage card because we want some early game damage. Loot Hoarder, Novice Engineer. I'm throwing those out to really get my handful in the early game if I'm lacking other options. The Blood Knight, we've only got 1 of him at this point in time, but if we can get a bunch of Divine Shield minions out and drop the Blood Knight, he could win us the game on his own. Note that he gains 3 attack and 3 health for each Divine Shield lost. So if you have 2 other minions with Divine Shield down, your Blood Knight instantly becomes 9/9. And for the 3 mana that he costs, that's ridiculously efficient. Raid Leader buffs all our minions, solid with any small minions that we're coming out with. Scarlet Crusader, a solid 2-for-1 card with the 3 attack and Divine Shield. Tauren Warrior, again a solid tanking card, and stick a Divine Shield on him if he's got some damage. He's swinging twice, he's doing a good job there. True Silver Champion is good for picking various bits and bobs off, and the heal as well, just a really solid core Paladin card. Blessing of Kings, again another buff, but we'd like some more blessings if we have them. The Twilight Drake, as we've described in Arena, you draw a lot of cards, you might have stuff stuck in your hand. Dropping a minion with that Battle Cry feeding off Arena will be great. And the Stranglethorn Timer at the moment is our sort of execute minion at that 5 mana range. Drop it, it's got stealth, it's fairly sort of, in the UK it would be a Ronseal card. Ronseal is this, Google or go on YouTube for Ronseal adverts and you'll see what I mean. It's got a catchphrase that makes perfect sense, but it does what it says on the tin, this card. It's really simple to play, and it will do some damage, won't take any damage while it's on the deck. So we've got a reasonably balanced sort of halfway deck at this point in time. We've got reasonable amounts of minions, reasonable amounts of spells. We've got a bit of a theme that we're trying to keep to. So taking a look at our mana curve in the bottom centre here, we're lacking sort of late game finishes. Our goal is of course to try and draw those early minion cards and not quite swarm, but get a bit of a benefit going. So we don't need to necessarily draw loads of late game minions or abilities, but some might be good. Otherwise we're becoming very sort of fire or forget. We'll either win or we won't in very short order. So back to the draft. We'll leave the Spiteful Smith alone because we don't really have a bunch of weapons. We've got 2. could be useful, but I'm veering towards the Amani Berserker for his immense enrage ability. That suddenly gives him 5 attack, and humility is actually quite a good card if there are some really scary big minions. That immediately negates the threat in case your opponent gets a lucky draw. I'm going to go with the Amani Berserker for the time being, just to complement my minions in this solid middle part of the game. In terms of these, we've got a nice buff card there. The Harvest Golem will give us a really easy 2-for-1, so we're going to jump in and grab that. The Spiteful Smith has come up again. I'm getting more and more tempted by that. If we just take a look at our deck at the moment, we're getting quite a few, 1, 2, 3, 4 minions in that 2-mana area, so we just need to make sure we're not swarming too hard. I'm going to go with the Spiteful Smith. It might be able to combine with the True Silver Champion, and we've just drawn another one of those. That is immensely strong. 2 True Silver Champions. It's brilliant in Arena, and just sharing with the chat. Oh, look at that. So 19 out of 20, and we've got a pick of a legendary indeed. What can we go for? Well, LEEROY. If we manage to grab a LEEROY and drop him and play him nice and early on, he could go with this deck really well. We could buff him up. We've got Divine Shields, we've got Blessings that could do him really well. Sylvanas, if we're being swarmed against, Sylvanas is a solid constructed minion. I'm not entirely sure whether she'd fit into our theme for Arena. And Ysera is just a killer finisher. If you get to 9, if we got to the later end of the game, Ysera would just mop the board for us. A very tough choice indeed. As Tom is mentioning in the chat, so I'm really torn between LEEROY and Ysera here. At the moment our theme is really sort of very early game focused. Ysera would provide us with a killer finisher. LEEROY would really take our sort of swarming theme and push it to the max. I'm against Sylvanas because although the stats are solid, she's really quite a sort of situational card. She does give a good 2-for-1, but that random enemy minion piece is a pretty tricky one as well. I'm going to go with I'm going to go with LEEROY. And we're going to see how it goes. I've got some reasonable early game options that I can sort of grab, but I'm going to go here with Consecration just for the clearance of the board. If I'm going against swarms, that Consecrate could come in really handy. Shattered Sun Cleric, Murloc Raider, Oasis Snapdraw. I don't really need a Snapdraw at this. I'm going to be dropping a LEEROY or a True Silver Champion. The Shattered Sun Cleric will get the nod for that additional buffing power. Now the Gurubashi Berserker. Spell damage. I've got a few spells I'm lobbing around. The Young Dragonhawk will let me set up some early game trades. That's anything I can drop. Remove some shields. The Gurubashi Berserker I'm going for, it takes damage, gains attack, and has huge health. And it also gives me something a bit bigger in the later game because I'm sort of lacking a bit in that area. Now, I'm actually going to go for the Youthful Brewmaster here. Reason for that being, I can pick up Leroy Jenkins and play him again. Or indeed any other of my minions with that card. Oh, another tough decision, and I think for the shielding ability and trading, although I've got 2 True Silver Champions, swinging away with that each time could execute me the game, or it's going with the Argent Protector for that Divine Shield. Tricky, very, very tricky. I'm going to go with the True Silver. Leponome, nice early damage. Repentance, playing a minion, reducing itself to 1. I'm going to go with the Leponome just because I've got some 1 damage spells and things, but I've not got huge amounts of 1. Redemption, the Argent Squire gives me that Divine Shield, a nice easy option. That will drop in there. Spiteful Smith, because I've got 3 weapons, that Spiteful Smith now becomes an even more solid play. And if I'm swarming, then given that I've got lots of bits, and don't forget I can still draft my I can still use for 2 mana, still use my hero ability of course, and be putting up 1/1 minions, so there's lots of stuff I can buff with all of these as well. So the Frostwolf Warlord, an exceptionally strong draft as well, that will get the nod in this case. It's really soliding up my late game. Again, another massively difficult decision. I've got 2 options here. I don't really want the Murloc. The Blessed Champion, give me double attack. If I want to combo that with my LEEROY, that could be causing me game in this situation, or indeed any other of my big powerful minions. The Pint-Sized Summoner just lets me pull my entire deck forward. In terms of my mana curve, it will really let me get a lot of minions out a lot quicker on the table, so that will be a really nice play as well. Really tough decision here. I don't know, I'm trying to let's see what the chat would go for. Decisions. Blessed Champion gives so much utility. It could give me an execute with a bunch of stuff in my deck. The Pint-Sized Summoner will just pull all of my minions forward in terms of ramp. meaning that I can just play minions sooner and much more easily. I think. Let's just take a look. I've got a lot of 2 minions that I could also play if it would situationally have to come out. There's a lot of 3, a lot of 4. It feels as though that the 5 is probably the way forward. I'm going to go for the Blessed Champion. There we have it. We'll just quickly review our deck. What did we manage to grab? In turn 1, we've got you can see clearly this is very early to mid-game focus. I need to be winning by that stage. Paladin, of course, a strong arena class. The Light's Justice for trying to trade away some small minions. That could have equally been swapped for something else. Blessings to buff up my minions. Dropping a Divine Shield. It was only 1, I could have had 2 to allow more 2-for-1 trades. The Leponome doing early damage and pressure. The Young Priestess buffing minions. Berserker. And cards also like the Tauren as well. I forgot his name, the Tauren Warrior as well. Things that, going for cards that can do a trade and then get an additional enrage benefit. Side Spine card, draw power in those 2, the Loot Hoarder and Novice Engineer. Brewmaster could set me up some nice combinations. Blood Knight will be situational, but if I can drop that on top of some Divine Shields, it might be a good game then and there. An Execute card, 2-for-1 card, buffs, 2-for-1 card, buffs. Enrage and pressure. 3 True Silver Champions. If I'm drawing those on a regular basis and swinging away in the late game, if I can stay on top of my opponent's minions, they could win the game for me alone. That 2 heal is invaluable. Buffs, table clearance, Leroy Lucky Draft Jenkins, which could be quite comical indeed. Twilight Drake, Blessed Champion. So we've got a solid mid-game card there. Buffs, minion area buffs, enrage, weapon buffs, and execute the Strongform Tiger. So I'm actually quite excited by this deck. It's looking quite solid. We've got a good theme. On the whole, we've got quite a few singles. Generally you want multiples of a card if at all possible. And don't forget, of course, that in Arena you can of course have more than 2 of certain kinds of card. It's all down to the luck of the draw. So whereas in a normal game I could only pick 2, for example, of a particular minion. In Arena those rules are lifted because of draft. So first game, no remorse as our opponent, and we are actually playing a mage, another very, very strong Arena class. So I'd be quite interested to see, have I been lucky, have they been lucky, how is this going to go? So as we looked at our strategy, in the early game we wanted to be getting up minions, putting pressure on and drawing cards. Keeping the True Silver Champion is a reasonable play here. I'm actually going to drop that just because I want to see if I can get a... Nope, it didn't work out for me at all. I rolled the dice for a cheaper, smaller minion and it didn't quite come off. But I've got an Argent Squire that I can pressure with. The Loot Hoarder will let me get some early card draw, and we can see what our mage friend has. Now, of course, the mage we all know and love or hate, depending on your opinion. Lots of good crowd control, lots of cheap spells. We know the freezes, we know all of that kind of area of effect damage. Mage is not an easy matchup for my deck with all of my small minions, unless I can get going before the mage does. So we shall see. An immediate coin in for 2 mana. A Fairy Dragon, 2/3/2. When I talk about solid spine minions, it's neutral minions that are just generally really good picks. Can't be targeted by heroes or spell powers, can only be attacked straight away, and of course it's got that 3 attack and 2 health, which is really, really useful. So I can pick this off this go. I'm going to sort of buy one here, and this is where I did want my Light's Justice to come in. I can take a bit of damage on my hero, but what I'm trying to do now is keep board control so I can pull my other stuff out. And that Light's Justice, although I'm not a warrior, I've not got armour, sadly, it will let me swing away at some of the smaller minions and try and keep a bit of domination over the table, because I'll need that against the mage. Blessing of Kings, a nice simple play here, and let's just do a little bit of trip at that mage. Just let the mage know that we are very much here. I'm going to try and do some stuff. So, straight up play there, just a quick 2 pinging away my Loot Hoarder and giving me that card. So let me draw. I can drop a Young Priestess into a Scarlet Crusader. The Young Priestess, if I pick it at this point, will naturally probably get picked off by the mage, but they will buff my Scarlet Crusader for 1 health. So that's a bit of a gamble. Do remember I've got no tanks, and even if I did have a tank against a mage, it would just be a little bit problematic anyway. So let's stick another damage on. Swing away with my Light's Justice, my 1 damage. Oh, it's buffed. I have every confidence that our mage friend here will probably decide to take this Priestess, unless he's got a 3 or a 4 mana play up his sleeve that he really wants to get out. a bit of a tough decision for him there. All bubbled up. He may well have a cone spell or something. So he's gone for the Gnomish Inventor. So he's willing to leave my minion buffing up because he needs draw, which is interesting. Maybe he's struggling a little bit with something. Enraging with my weapon for 2 attack I don't really want to do here because my weapon is going to disappear. But I can immediately Frostwolf Warlord, and going into the Frostwolf Warlord immediately puts a nice piece of pressure on the table. Now this is where that one remaining durability on my weapon is good. I can trade away that minions, although I lose the Divine Shield. Would be nice for my Blood Knight. It means I've actually got a bit of pressure on. I know that our mage friend here can do many things. He can polymorph, he can freeze, he can really slow these minions down, but I've got enough that he needs to start thinking about clearance rather than thinking about pressuring me. So in terms of when people talk about tempo, and there we go, polymorph, he's done the sensible thing and removed my threat. However, that's not going to stop him avoiding my other threats. Now, if you just take a Butcher's here, a Butcher's Hook, Cockney Rhyming Slang for look. I've got my 2 enraged minions out, that will be a tank, and taking a look at the nice play I can do here, because I've managed to get board control, I'm now really putting some pressure down on him now, although these aren't big at this point in time. If he does any damage to them, suddenly they're going to be enraged. The Wild Pyromancer is a risky play for him here. He can do some clearance, that's going to clear away at least 2 of my minions, 3 of my minions. But a very good card at 4 of my minions, very well played by him there. The Wild Pyromancer there, risky, but then when he had the spells in hand, he could just use that to just totally nuke my very small minions. So spot a Wild Pyromancer in a deck like that, for example, in a spellcasting deck, a really good pressure card. I am now going to have to go and do something completely different. In terms of getting the damage on and putting the pressure on, what I'd like to do here is just keep pressure on my opponent. So I'm going to do that by really buffing up with Blessing of Kings and just swinging it at the hero. He's not able to prevent that damage with tanks or anything. He can polymorph, he can freeze, but just giving myself that extra 4 health. I've now got a 9/6 Tauren Warrior because he's been enraged and damaged. The Fireball picks him off, but he's used a valuable expensive spell there. So although sadly I've lost my big tanky minion, at least I've managed to make sure that the table is traded. I've got the health advantage. An important thing to note here is that my friend here does have a card advantage. As I swing away with my first of my 3 True Silver Champions, I'm really enjoying that draft. I've done a 2 heal. I'm really in a solid position, but with to that 8 mana phase, if he's got legendaries, they could be swinging as the Water Elemental drops. Can freeze nicely. He can freeze my hero, meaning I'm not going to be able to attack next go. A very solid play, and then finally picking up my token with his Fire Blast. Got another weapon. Feeling good about that. Let's get my Spiteful Smith down. Let's drop another minion, and all I can do is knock on the table. Now the thing here, of course, is that you can just keep pinging away at me for 3. With, beg pardon, his Water Elemental, and freezing me and making my hero essentially invalid. My True Silver Champion is no good unless, of course, I can actually use it. So I really need to find a way of picking off this Water Elemental, and if he doesn't attack my hero and with the freeze effect, it's a bit of a challenging play for him. Down goes the secret. That could be a nasty thing to play around, and very sensibly he just keeps on pinging away. Unfortunately for him, I have my LEEROYs, but I need to work out what I'm going to be charging into. I'm probably going to try and charge into the opposing hero to see what that does. Why not? LEEROY Jenkins. Oh, and it does the damage. I can just swing straight in for the win. Lovely stuff. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is quite a nice little starting Paladin game. So we're going to be coming up to our half-hour point, so what we'll just do is get one more quick game in. That was quite a nice example actually of a nicely drafted idea. Got a bit of luck with the draft, and yeah, a little bit of fortune with the card draw as well, but of course this is a card game, so that's going to happen. So having a nice draft idea, managing to get a few nice cards around it, and taking a win. And taking a win against a deck that could, if it had been drafted, if our opponent had the luck as well, could have caused us some problems. So one win is only one win. Refrigerator the Druid is our next threat. Druids, of course, have got lots of nasty options as well in draft. Maybe they've got multiple innovates or similar going on. Let's see what we've got. An initial buff into Divine Shield, a Bloodfin Raptor with a Scarlet Crusader and a True Silver Champion. I'm pretty happy with that as a starting hand. although I don't have a 1 mana play. I would quite like one. The True Silver Champion will let me. I've got quite a nice curve there. I'm going to trade back these two. I could have kept that hand entirely as is, and I probably should have done, taking a look at that. My mulligans are not working very well for me at this point in time. I was really probably fishing for a 1 mana play in terms of a Young Priestess or an Argent Squire. Instead I've got 2 cards that are going to cause me some problems. That's not so good. Not so good indeed. I'm going to accelerate into my Bloodfang Raptor here. When it comes to druids, they can have crazy stuff just because of their core deck mechanics. They've picked a bunch of innovates, all of their cards that give them fantastic mana, simple things that make absolute pain, and a bit of a mad bombing. The Mad Bomber, you only ever see him come up in draft, the whole bunch, only in arena, and you can just have a lot of fun with him doing very crazy things. Crazy indeed.
Reporting for duty.
I'm in sort of the one who's rushing or pressuring, so I'm just going to go ahead and swing in with my Bloodfang Raptor. If he wants to trade, he can come for me. I've got first go. I want to try and keep myself in the ascendancy. And the Druid, is he playing a Murloc deck, or is he playing a Rush deck? A Murloc Tidehunter is a great 2-for-1 anyway, because you just get that extra card, which is splendid. Let's have a look and see what we can do here. Shattered Sun Cleric will not keep all my minions alive even if I do buff them. Important to note at this point in time. The Divine Shield will give me some options to remove things. I think that will be good. So, Divine Shielding my Raptor will let me pick off the more aggressive enemy minions. And this is where Paladin little token Silverhand recruits excel. You can just drop them, use them for trading, using them for removing bubbles and all sorts of things too. So that's really good stuff. And, as expected, he does similar, trades away. He's got a Harvest Golem down, some nice pressure. I've got my Blood Knight, but I don't have any Divine Shield minions, so I'm going to save that for in case some more turn up. What can we do here? Well, I've got a real nice trading option. I can just start swinging away with my first of my, as we know by now, 3 True Silver Champions. Lovely Paladin weapon. 2 heal, 4 attack, 2 durability, can just swing and swing and swing and get that heal where you go. Druid Claw comes down and he's gone for a taunting minion. It's a nice wall for him there. Very much loving that play from our opponent. So Novice Engineer will just give me a card. I'm quite happy with that. Shattered Sun Cleric, if I drop, is just going to get killed at this point in time. I don't think it's going to do a huge amount. And although I do have some blessings, they're not going to do huge amounts. I'm actually just going to keep my deck acceleration going. I'm going to drop another token as well while we're here. So if he doesn't deal with one of those tokens, I can pretty much use it to, between all of my card plays, pick off his tank next go. But let's see if this tank minion that he's got out, taunting away, not allowing me to attack, will let him set up. Because this is the first turn that our druid friend has actually had a little bit of time to consider what he's doing. It's important to remember, as we've discussed in previous episodes, when we wait for our druid friend to make a play, that do use your health as a resource, even more so in arena. Of course, there is a bit more potluck in arena with various things, but it is still worth, if you're taking some damage to your hero, especially if you're playing all minions use Divine Shield. If I play my Blood Knight, I get the benefit of that Silverwing Guardian's Divine Shield. That will be most tasty indeed. I have a very nice play next turn. So let's just consider this so we make the play properly. I'm probably going to swing in with my hero. That will let me do some damage, although I'll take 2 as well. I can then buff up my Silverhand Recruit and get him to pick that off. I can then drop my Blood Knight, which will make a 6/6 minion, which will be pretty scary. And if I want to, I can give that some more power as well. So lots of nice options in the right order. So first things first, swing at the Druid. Take 4, heal 2, so I'm pretty good there. Next play, I could also, the Shattered Sun is an option. It depends how scary I want to make my Blood Knight in one turn. The Shattered Sun means that I will die, I'll just have another minion on the table. Okay. Another minion on the table versus sacrificing a minion with a 4 attack. I think I'll go for another minion on the table. This will mean that my Blood Knight is not quite as powerful as it could have been. If my Blood Knight then proceeds to pass away, then strip that shield. Lovely. And we've got a 6/6. So I could have made that Blood Knight 10/10. And if he then proceeds to knock out my Blood Knight this turn, then I should have probably made that decision. And that would have been going for the Blessing of Might and then dropping the Blessing of Kings instead. I think I would have had enough mana to do that. But the real thing here is, can our Druid Powell do 3 damage on top of the 3 damage he's got with the Silver Moon Guardian if he wants to execute that trade? The Refrigerator is taking a ponder, so maybe he does not. I'll just say a quick hello in the chat while we ruminate on what our Druid is. Oh, yeah, he's got the damage. There's 6. There goes down some nice tanking as well with the Mark of the Wild, as we say hello in the chat. You now have a very easy option. Oh, and another buff as well. 2 Mark of the Wilds in a row. And note that he's now just rushing for my hero. He is not too concerned about anything else, so he has now put the trade on me. I need to find a way of making this work. So I can actually quite easily now trade these 2 away. That's not an issue for me, but I don't want to be passing away either. So the options here. Consecrate will get me close. I can pop 1 minion away. That's fine. I'm actually just going to go for a straightforward Blessing of Kings and create a Beast minion. There's that 10/10. 10/5, I've still got some power in there. The other thing I'm probably going to do, I could puff that minion even further, but that makes it very vulnerable to removal. What I will just do is drop another token. Now our Druid friend has not been using his hero power, he can swing away with that, but I've now got a sizable threat on the deck. If he doesn't have removal, then it could be that ultimately that Blood Knight play could win me the game. Stormwind Champion swings in. Now my health is low, so I'm going to have to be looking at trades unless I can remove that from the deck. So I need to play this carefully. Giving a minion 3 attack. Oh, I can just drop a Consecrate into a 3 attack minion, and this is where buffing those tokens becomes so handy. So firstly we'll drop the Consecrate. We'll drop that off the table. Secondly, we will drop the minion into 3 attack. We'll then drop a weapon on as well. A good measure. And that gives me the option to pick off his dangerous minion. So 10! Lovely job. This Blood Knight actually coming out very, very nicely. Fortunately, because my opponent decided to play a card with Divine Shield and I managed to jump in and take advantage. If I'd had more of my own cards on the table, that Blood Knight could be even more dangerous. I still think a Blood Knight Divine Shield themed deck would be really, really fun. Rush style. I'll have to see if I can build one. A nasty, nasty on the table play there. He's really pulled everything out, but he is relying basically on the fact that I'm not going to... Oh, and he's taking the damage. He doesn't know that I've got the True Silver Champion, so he's got no taunting minions. This game is mine next turn, so I'm going to drop the True Silver Champion, swing for 4, and then swing for 10. And well played. A nice finishing move there, and that is actually 2 straight wins with this arena deck. So enjoy it, guys. A nice unexpected start to an arena run, but Paladin, as we've discussed, a strong class, so that's a nice little start. Thank you very, very much. That is our Hearthstone Half Hour, so that will be our run for this evening. But as always, what we'll do is continue running this deck, not with voice commentary straight after the episode. So if you're tuning in live on Twitch, keep watching. We'll keep playing a few more games and see how it goes. If you're watching on our archives, then please do tune in one night. In tonight's episode, we've just done Arena Tuesday, played a nice intro bit of Paladin Arena and shown you one way in which you can draft a deck, an idea, a concept that you can take in your arena draft. We did have luck of the draw, both in terms of the arena cards that we got in our draft, but also a little bit in the games as well. But we've taken 2 opponents, managed to defeat them. The deck seems to be working well so far, so only time will tell as to how consistent it is throughout the rest of our arena run. We will be sure to let you know. If you enjoyed this episode, we do 4 or 5 nights a week, new player Mondays, arena on Tuesdays, ladder and focusing on competitive decks more on Wednesdays, and a little bit of strategy of some description on a Thursday, more sort of intermediate concepts. So whether you're brand new or taking a bit more of a deep step into Hearthstone, hopefully there's something for you here. Last but not least, where can you find us? You can find us on youtube.com/Felcroftcast. That is, as always, our archive. It is where we will be putting all of our videos. Just saying a little hello in the chat. It is where we will be streaming and uploading all of our videos, so you can see all of our old videos, old episodes of the Hearthstone Half Hour, lots more other games as well, but do get stuck in, Blizzard games galore and more there. Twitch.tv/failcraftcast, and for those you can jump in, free Twitch account, you can join us 7:30 to 8 PM GMT Monday through Friday. All good there as well. If you want to tune in live, you can see more of these after the episode finishes and similar. Twitter.com/failcraftcasts is our Twitter. When we're not playing games in the evening, UK time, we will be on there, so come say hello, check games with us, we absolutely love it. I love hearing what you guys have got going on as well. And then last but not least, the website, failcraft.org. A little while after we've recorded episodes live and uploaded them to YouTube, we will of course put them there, and we'll also add things like links to deck lists, the new player links that we're building up as well, on other news articles and things that maybe don't sit quite so well in a video, but nice news on Hearthstone and other games there too. Blizzard games primarily, and also PC games, but we will be doing console games in future. So, jumping to our lock-up screen that we'll need to update in a little bit. If you've managed to get this far, thank you. If you loved it, do let us know. We'd love to hear from you. If you think we could improve or didn't like it so much, well, that's absolutely fine, but just let me know. Please do get in touch and let us know what we could improve, because we always want to make better content for you. We'll be streaming on afterwards, but thank you very much for tuning in. If you're on the archives to this episode of the Hearthstone Half Hour, we'll be back tomorrow night. It will be a Wednesday, and it will be Ladder Wednesday. We're going to be swinging away with Control Warrior and commenting over the top of our games again as we go for Legend this rank Season 1 at about rank 9 or 8 at the moment, so looking forward to seeing how that develops. Thank you very much for tuning in, and as always,